The title of this book is Tani'S New Home. A refugee finds hope and kindness in America. It's written by Tani'S Adewami, illustrated by Courtney Dawson. This is a nonfiction book. That means the story is true. In a home that felt as secure as a castle, in a fine neighborhood in Nigeria, Tani'S Adewami lived with mom, dad, and his big brother Austin. Their home was usually quiet and calm until grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins crowded inside. Tani gobbled pound yam and glugged egu soup. His great uncles tapped the udu drums. Tum tum tum. Mom and her sisters danced until the street vendors called, Ikaru, good morning. One day, Dad returned home early from his print shop. His hands trembled. What is it? Mom asked. Some men from a terrorist group called Boko Haram had ordered Dad to print posters with messages of hate. Dad had snuck away from his shop, but now the whole family was in danger. Boko Haram hurt people who disagreed with them. Tani's family packed everything and Dad sped across Nigeria. 6 hours later, he steered through an opening in a tall wall. Tani peered at the unfamiliar house. Dad bolted the door. Mom yanked the curtains close. But Austin made Tani feel safe. I've got a great game, Austin said. Chess. He sketched lines on a sheet of paper. Color every other square. Tani worked his crayon side to side as Austin scissored another page into pieces. Then they moved the paper pieces across the homemade board. Tani didn't understand the rules, but he liked taking turns. One morning, Tani awoke to see a chair wedged against the floor. Marks in the wooden door, cracks in its frame. Boko Haram had found them. They had tried to break in. We're going to America, said Dad. Tani's heart thrummed like an udu drum. Tum, tum, tum. What does America look like? You'll see, said Dad. A few days later, Tani climbed into a real airplane. They flew for hours, slipping farther and farther from home. At long last, they boarded a bus to New York City. Tani's eyes widened. The city shone as bright as day all through the night. In Nigeria, lights sometimes went dark for weeks. Wow. In a brick building, Mom and Dad filled out piles of paperwork for a place to live. Tani dozed on a bench. When Mom finally shook him awake, Tani bounded into a bus that took them to a homeless shelter. They stared at the building. Thank you, God. Tani smiled ear to ear until he saw their new place. His parents lived in a tiny room on the 4th floor. Tani and Austin lived in a tiny room on the 5th floor. 2 narrow beds, a dresser, a window. This is a room, not a home, Tani said. Outside, cars beeped and screeched. Someone screamed. The city sounds were the same in Nigeria. Still, he wished his parents were down the hall, as they'd always been. Tani started a new school that had a number instead of a name, PS 116. New faces surrounded him. Most kids smiled. Some whispered. Finally, the bell rang for lunch. Tani's stomach growled. He craved the sting of habanero pepper on his tongue and the spicy steam of jollof rice in his nose. Instead, gooey stuff called cheese covered everything. Cheese burgers, cheese pizza, macaroni and cheese. Ick. Tani then went to a new kind of class, chess. But this chess was nothing like Austin's game. Tani learned how pawns, rooks, and knights moved. He learned that the queen is the most powerful piece. Tani imagined capturing another player's king to win the game. Coach Sean said, sometimes neither player can win. A tie in chess is called a draw. After school, Tani raced to ask if he could join the chess club. Mom stared at the sidewalk. The cost was too much. But, Mom said, let me see what I can do. One day, Mom burst into Tani's room. "You can join the chess club." "We can't afford it," he said. Mom explained that she had emailed Coach Russ, who ran the club. She told Coach Russ that they lived in a shelter. "We don't have to pay anything." Tani bounced into Mom's arms. "Thanks." In chess club, Coach Russ said, "The people who do the best in chess are the ones who work the hardest." Tani nodded. Chess wasn't about where you lived or what you owned. Chess was about hard work. Tani was hooked. He taught Austin to play the right way. They practiced each day, and their room felt a little less cramped. Weeks later, Tani played in his first tournament. He drew the first 2 games and lost the third. He scored the lowest out of all the players. Chess was hard. The next day, Tani remembered Coach Russ's words. "The people who do the best in chess are the ones who work the hardest." He sat at the front in chess club. He studied famous players. He played hundreds of chess puzzles. He challenged everyone to a match. Tani competed in more tournaments. He even won some. His score climbed higher and higher. 1 year later, Tani qualified for the state championship. 6 matches, 2 days, the very best chess players in New York. Zip! Tani whooshed his rook across the board and smacked the clock to stop the timer. Zing! Suddenly, his challenger swiped his knight. Tani gulped. "Do not rush." He made his face a calm mask. He would play like a king, 1 move at a time. Finally, Tani won the game. Then he won the second game and the third. The next afternoon, while Tani waited for his last game, he heard someone say, "All Tani needs to do is draw." He had already scored more points than his next opponent. If they drew, they would each get half a point. Tani would be the champion. His heart pounded like 1,000 udu drums. Tum, tum, tum! Tum, tum, tum! Pieces battled on the board. Rook forward. Pawn captured pawn. Knight up and over. Rook to the side. Tani sat tall. "I'm going to win." He concentrated hard. His brain ached. Then he blundered. His mistake gave the other player a chance to win. Unless Tani gazed into his opponent's eyes. "I offer a draw. Would the kid accept?" Tani's insides quivered as the clock ticked, ticked, ticked. At last, his opponent nodded. Coach Russ swung Tani into the air. "You are the New York State champion." Teammates high-fived him. "I am so proud," Mom said. A reporter heard about Tani. Headlines cheered. "This 8-year-old chess champion will make you smile." A homeless 8-year-old is now a New York chess champion. People around the world reached out to Tani and his family. They wanted to help. A stranger donated a car. Another gave Tani's family a surprise, an apartment of their own. Although the apartment was small, was bare, Mom and Dad invited everyone over for a Nigerian feast. Their friends weren't grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins, but they were family all the same. Tani scampered around the rooms. "I have a home." The end.